Welcome to another episode of the Pot of Gold podcast, where we spotlight real people taking real action to reclaim their time, build wealth, and live with purpose. Today's guest, Spencer Hunter, is doing just that. Spencer is an investor, consultant, and connector who's been actively in the real estate game for about a year, but his roots run much deeper. With a decade of experience as a general contractor, he brings a builder's mindset to every deal. Hailing from St. Anthony, Idaho, Spencer now lends his underwriting skills to bliss-based ventures and is driven by a mission close to the heart, providing transitional housing for individuals facing medical hardships. If you're a parent dreaming of using your skills to create a business that not only supports your family, but serves a greater purpose, this episode is one you don't want to miss. Spencer, thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Nathaniel.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. I'm excited to hear more about your story and how you got started in real estate. In fact, that's typically where I like to start. Can you tell me a little bit about your story and why you decided this was the route you wanted to take with your life and your business?
Well, that could be a long story, but I'll keep it short. I, from a young age, had a fascination with building. That's what got me into contracting and building homes and whatnot, but I knew I needed to do more with it. I had other dreams and visions that were important. They felt like they were needed. Taking care of those people that are in transition. I'm focusing right now on medical transition with bliss-based ventures, but it encompasses so much more than that. There's so many different kinds of hardship that can be helped through transitional housing and the support system that can be built around it. But I think the earliest I remember having inklings towards it was probably 9 years old. My parents were also in the process of renovating the basement to be an apartment. It wasn't long after that they picked up a house on the other side of town, and we cleaned it up. It was a mess. We cleaned it up, renovated it, and it became a rental that has been a miracle in their lives and helped them be able to offer help to other people. I think that helped influence my desire to support people going through hardship, as I saw my parents doing some of that over the years.
Well, that's interesting. Amazing how our parents and our upbringing impact the things that we're drawn to over the course of our lives. And sometimes we don't recognize it until later on when we have other opportunities that are presented to us. So you were building from a very young age. Were you one of those kids that was like obsessed with Legos and Duplos and erector sets?
Totally. Yeah. I had one of those like 15-gallon, no, not 15, probably about a 30-gallon totes worth of little Legos.
Okay,
and
the little one.
I was always like trying to make transformers and build buildings and all the time.
That's cool. Well, I think that's a little bit of everybody's childhood, but some of the people, they specialize, I guess, more than others. So your parents were a little bit involved in real estate as well. Is that where you ended up becoming a general contractor? Was it due to the things your family was doing, or did that just kind of happen as a matter of course?
That happened as a matter of course. I served a mission for my church for 2 years, and when I got back, I spent a little bit of time as a job coach for a disability company. Okay. Helping those with mental disabilities actually perform on a job and being a coach, stand by with them. About the time that I got married to my dear wife, I had a shift in job and ended up working with a contractor on, 40, I think I was involved in like 42 units.
Okay. And
a little multifamily complex for college housing, married college housing. But
that's cool. So it's kind of started with a big project right out the go.
Yeah, it sure did. And
then that led eventually to being interested in doing investment yourself, or what kind of investment do you do with your real estate endeavors?
Oh man, so to answer the first question first, when my parents were getting that property across town, they were looking at, I want to say it was 100 properties a month, because they were told to by some mentorship that they were in. And so I remember going through houses and houses and houses, and I picked up the habit of watching the market and what's going on, what are things really worth, what do they need, how is it valued and whatnot. So I kept that habit, and it was always on the back of my mind. When me and my wife first got married, we're living in a tiny house, and just on the other side of the city block there was a garage that had been renovated into an apartment, and it came up for sale for like $50,000. We're like, if we could get a loan for it, we could rent it out, and we could, it wouldn't pay us, but it would pay all of its bills. And so that thought process was always right there, and it felt just out of reach because I hadn't been employed for 2 years. My wife was just coming out of college, and we weren't familiar with anything besides traditional lending for getting real estate.
So what shifted? What changed?
Well, we got invited to make a big leap in buying our own house. We had a realtor that worked with us creatively, which I didn't know it was that at the time. I just knew that we looked at the place and my wife was like, this is our house. What do we need to do? And the realtor was like, well, let's see what we can do. Ended up working with us for like 9 months to get in the place. And we rented it out part of that time. Actually, 3 days after we moved into the house, we had our first Airbnb guests. And we used Airbnb to help us afford the house. So that was... I kind of got thrown in the deep end on some of it, but...
That's pretty incredible. I like that. So being able to kind of creatively enter your first home, that led into being able to understand that creative was a thing, right? And then you started becoming more aware of the market because of your experience as a general contractor and what your parents were doing. And then this led you to finally make the decision, I'd like to do this more often, or what was the process of that?
So I got the feeling like... it was probably a year and a half ago. I got the feeling I need to start doing something with that desire. It's growing. It's feeling more impactful. I need to actually act on that and figure out what I need to do. Because as a general contractor, I was making decent money. Things were decently stable, but it was time for a shift, and it could be felt. And so I started looking into things and realized I'd been seeing ads from Pace Morby for 2 or 3 years, and had always just brushed them off. They were the YouTube ads that popped up, and you're like, when does that skip button come up?
I know.
So I ended up looking at some of his stuff and realizing I had been thinking about a lot of the financial side of things at least wrong the whole time. Hadn't realized that I'd gotten into my own house creatively. I thought that was a fluke. Little did I know it wasn't. But
the people go out there and do things like that on purpose every day, right?
Yep.
That's an interesting thing to realize.
Ran into Pace and ran into Jerry Norton and binged their stuff for like 3 months as I started to spin my wheels on how to implement and started implementing. But I applied Jerry Norton's stuff to get into wholesaling and then creative finance to make another shift that allowed me to join Gator, which changed my life.
Changed my life as well. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? I'd like to know about your experience.
So I joined Gator in April last year, and it was fast-paced. It's amazing, the feel of the community, the culture that it has. Everybody wants to help.
Yeah. And
those that don't seem to disappear pretty quick.
That's for sure. I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't have found the Gator community and the Sub-2 community, because people know from watching the show that I went through some pretty traumatic things in my past, and it was hard for me to talk to people. But the go-giving nature of this community allowed me to take action even though I was scared every day. And it's been such a good thing for me because it's helped me get around that fear, and night and day kind of a difference in my lived experience. So it's been really good for me. And I would definitely recommend the Gator community and the Sub-2 community to anybody who's thinking about getting involved in real estate or starting a business, because these guys are rock solid and they're a golden resource to have.
And I'd second that. I love that you pulled out there too that not just real estate, but business. Because really the principles and whatnot that are exemplified in the community are what we need more of in the leadership of every industry right now.
No, I think you're spot on with that. It's one of those things where you have the dual nature of humanity, right? Where there's a side that's always consuming and then there's a side that's producing. We definitely want the side that is the go-giving, producing side to outgrow the side that's the consuming side. And I think that as we have those growing pains over time, I think eventually humanity is going to reach the point where we're all given to each other. I see that future being more realistic than any of the other ones. But yeah, this community has changed my life for a extremely positive effect. And I just love the fact that you mentioned them as one of the parts of your growth and development as well. However, I do want to remind everyone that not everything is always going to be sunshine and roses, because there's definitely problems that occur. But that actually emphasizes the importance of having a community instead of just going alone and doing it all by yourself, because at least then you can draw on the experience of other people to resolve those problems. And on the subject of problems, have you faced any significant hurdles as you've gone forth to try to set up your own business and be an entrepreneur?
Man, there's the mindset problems that come up, the challenges. It's really easy to doubt yourself or doubt the process or rely on motivation, and those things just throw wrenches in everything.
Oh, yeah.
But when I was first getting started, I thought that my biggest hindrance was finances. I couldn't find the finances for stuff, which is why I joined Gator rather than Sub 2. And then had my eyes opened majorly. There's so much available that we have no clue that is available without being handed new glasses to see the world through.
That's really interesting, because I've gone through that. There's been several moments where I was like, why did I think the way I thought?
Yeah.
Good example, before I bought my first house, which is something that I was able to do because of the things I learned in Gator, I was convinced that I did not want to pay private mortgage insurance for any reason under the sun. That was a scam, and that I did not need to pay that for any reason. And so I was going to save up a full 20% in order to buy a house. And if I would have just understood better, I could have bought a house when house prices were like $100,000 cheaper and the interest rates were at 2%. But because I was stubborn and thought that that was the thing that I shouldn't be doing, I waited. And now, we got into a house, but it's a lot more of a financial burden than it would have been if I would have just did the research and understood properly that it was okay to pay that for a little bit, because we pay it now and it's like $30 a month. Why was that such a sticking point? But it's those things that you have to go out and take action in order to understand. And because I was stuck in this cycle of analysis paralysis, it kept me from going out and buying a house when it was cheaper. So that's my experience with that. But I'm curious to hear what your kind of experience was for mindset shifts that you made.
One big one there early on, right before I joined Gator, as I was, consuming tons of content and trying to figure out where I was going to go with it. We were remodeling our house. We were looking to move across the state, and we were going to sell it. Well, we listed it, and it was on the market for 9 months, didn't do anything. And I was like, you know what? I'm learning all this creative stuff. I need to think out of the box. What am I not thinking of? And pretty soon I came to the idea, well, what would it look like? What would we need to move the way we want to move and structure things creatively on the other end and keep this as a rental? And so as I started exploring that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to take action if I don't have some boot behind me ready to kick me. Maybe somebody else wants to buy this place but isn't in a position to just go out and buy it. So we put out there, open to lease option, and we got like 10 answers in 2 days. It's like, oh, wow. Whoa, okay, let's look at this. And so we started to talk to different people and whatnot, and eventually found some people that we felt comfortable with renting it out to, figured out a way to make it work so that we lived with my wife's folks for a bit while we found a place and got them in, and it rented, and lived with the in-laws for 2 months before we found a place.
That's really cool. So you weren't able to sell it traditionally. For whatever reason, it wasn't selling for about 9 months. And then because you decided to think outside the box and offer a lease option to people, all of a sudden the solution presented itself. I like that. That's incredible.
I would never have thought to do that without running into Pace and Jerry.
Yeah, right? But then live with your in-laws for a little bit and find yourself a new house. Did you buy the new house on creative type of terms as well, or was that just kind of a traditional purchase?
We ended up not buying a house. We bought 10 acres of raw land, and we bought it on seller finance,
There you go.
where I was able to go to the seller and say, hey, or have a realtor represent me and say, hey, I'm interested. This is the down payment that I can put down. Are you good with these terms? And I offered them a little bit higher percentage than normal for interest rate on it. And they were like, let's do that. I was like, creative number 2. It just happened. Whoa, okay.
It's funny. It's like this principle of if you don't ask, the answer is always no. But if you don't have an understanding of how creative finance works, whether it's seller finance or taking the mortgage subject to or lease options, all these different tools that you can put in your tool belt, well, then you're never going to ask those questions because they're just not even questions that are in your head to ask. It's really cool to learn more about the finances, and I like the fact that you are slowly adding to your tool belt as you have these different experiences. That's really cool. Well, we'll get back to speaking with Spencer here in a second, but I would be selfish if I didn't tell you about something that has helped me be successful, and that's Button Leads. Button Leads is a customer relationship management software run by a friend named Gage Garber that basically sets up all of the systems and processes you need to run a successful lending or wholesaling business. It allows you to keep track of a lot of the different contacts that you make, send out email and text reminders to people to continue to nurture your clients, as well as send things through the pipeline so that you can close more deals and not have to worry about keeping track of all the different types of paperwork involved. If you're interested in taking advantage of a system that is built for you to enable you to focus on the things that you're good at, go to this affiliate link here in the YouTube description below and get your copy of Button Leads today.
So the future for my company, I'm going to take that in the direction of, so I have several companies. I'm going to take that in a different direction than Bliss Base because Grady talks about Bliss Base in his interview and whatnot. So I feel like that's covered. If you want to know about that, go watch that one. Grady's a great guy and you need to get to know him too.
Yeah, he's a swell guy. He's always positive too. He told me that his job is to be the thermometer or the thermostat for everyone else's mood. And I thought that was an amazing perspective to have.
It is. It is. So the other company that I'm really doing a lot with right now on my end is SH Property Solutions, which is focused on consulting and partnering with other investors.
Okay.
So,
very cool.
An example of that is when I went to Squat Up, one of my focuses was connecting with people, finding people who had a need but didn't know where to go to fill the need, and getting to know them, getting to know their values, getting to know how either I could fill that need or I could find the right person to fill the need. So one of the things that was interesting to see is how, people in their conversations, you get connectors all the time from Gator who are like, or from Sub2, who are like, oh, I'm a connector. I'm going to just bring these two people together and say, love it, pay me some, bye. It's like they didn't get to know the person. They didn't get to build that relationship at all. That's where the bread and butter is.
We talked a little bit about this at Squad Up.
I think we did.
My strategy this year was, instead of trying to get as many, like a quantity number of people to talk to, I was trying to focus on having quality conversations with people. And I don't know exactly how well that's going to pan out because, I don't know, you do things differently each time as an entrepreneur because you're trying to iterate and find out what sticks and what doesn't. And so that was kind of my strategy this last year. And I think there are some really cool things that happened with it because I got to form some deep friendships. And I think there's a lot of utility instead of just treating it as a transaction, that you treat it as an actual relationship that you're trying to build and grow and nurture. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
We live in a transactional world. I mean, all of our culture in America that's being broadcast, and for the last while at least, I feel like there's a shift coming, that we're starting to see a shift in the way that media is put together and the way that businesses are interacting with each other. But for the longest time, it's been transactional based. What can I give you? What can you give me? And that's it. But I feel like there's a shift, and it's a healthy shift where we've had so much transactional life. We want something rooted and deep, having those values aligned, having the care of one another, not just the business, not just everything going on, but having that care and that life in the conversation, in the relationship, in the culture.
I think it has to do a bit with also that there's probably some more benefit to it overall. Someone told me that one of the hallmarks of maturity is being able to set aside the short term in favor of the long term. And I think that's what you do when you build a good relationship, because a well-cultivated relationship is a thing that's going to constantly bear fruit. It's not just a one-off type of thing. If you do a good deal with somebody that you build a relationship with, they're going to come back again and again and again, and you're going to do consistent business, which is, at least in the business world, one of the things you're really striving for is reoccurring revenue, right? So as far as the financial side of things, I think there's a lot of utility in forming long-term relationships with business partners so that you guys can kind of grease the wheels of the whole machine to benefit everybody involved.
Definitely.
But it's an interesting thing. I'm also not extremely experienced because I've only done a couple deals. But I have noticed that with my marriage and my other relationships in my life, the more I invest into them and actually treat it as something that I need to maintain instead of just something I expect, then those things grow and improve. Very cool. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, I know we don't have a lot more time for the interview, despite the tech things that we went through. Is there a way that people can reach out to you to connect with you, maybe work with you on the things that you're working on?
Easiest ways to get in contact with me are going to be through Instagram. My handle is spencer.j.hunter on Instagram. And honestly, I check that more than I check Facebook.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to get better about my social media stuff, but man, it's been one of those uncomfortable things I have to conquer.
No, I get that. It's face the fear kind of a thing. The only way you can really get around it is by doing it over and over and over again until it becomes boring, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And if we're going to progress, we have to pass the uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the thing about comfort too, though, is that when you're comfortable, nothing new happens. And so you could be comfortable your whole life and not really experience anything, because if nothing happens to you, nothing happens to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's another saying that's a lot like that, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes. It's something to the effect of, if you want your life to change, you have to change.
Things stay the same, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. On that topic, do you have any recommendations for people that are just getting started that might be in a W-2, want to start becoming a business owner? How do they find out about creative ways to get engaged with real estate?
3 people, I'm going to say 5 people I would recommend, just because they touch different things. Some of them overlap, but 5 people I would definitely recommend getting in space with. Not just like getting books or watching videos, but actually finding a way to get in their space according to what you're looking to do. If you want to do business stuff, if you really want to become a business owner, it's easier than you think. Look into what Cody Sanchez is doing. And if not her, then someone in her space is going to really align with what you're looking to do. If you're wanting to get into the financial world, 2 people I would say is look at Ryan Schroep or Kalisha Carter.
Okay.
They are fantastic individuals in that world. And then in real estate, the 2 people I feel like are leading the industry, well, 3 people really. They're a dynamic trio. But anything you want to really do with real estate, you need to be in the space of Pace Morby, Jamil Damji, and Jerry Norton. There's other mentorships and gurus and whatnot. But those 3 people have something unique about them. They want to not only show you how it's done, but they want to do it with you.
Yeah, I've noticed that about Pace. He gives a lot of time to his community, more than I've seen almost any other place. And that's not to say that other mentors don't do that. It just seems like really the thing that he does all the time. He's always talking with his students. He's always putting time into them. And it's been really cool to see. I don't have as much familiarity with Jamil or Jerry, but I do like both of the things that I've seen from their content as well.
Great, man.
Those are excellent suggestions. Well, very cool. Do you have anything else that you would like to share with the audience before we end the interview today?
Don't overthink yourself. If you feel an inclination to do it, do it. If nothing else, your action will help you know which direction to go. But if you're standing at a crossroads, which we're always standing at crossroads, the first thing we got to do is take a step.
Awesome. I like that. A bad plan poorly executed is better than a perfect plan not executed at all.
Any day of the week. Any day of the week.
I think it's also selfish if you are obsessed with the perfection, because who are you to think that you could obtain that when no one else in the world gets to? So stop being
Seriously.
so much worried about whether it's perfect or not. Go out and do messy things. In fact, I was watching the Magic School Bus with my son the other night, and the teacher in there, she says, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. And I was like, you know what?
Yes.
I like that philosophy. And I recommend that course of action to everybody. Get creative.
Go make some chaos.
Go create chaos. Yep. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. This has been the Pot of Gold podcast. We talk about finances, wealth generation, and real estate investing. But really, the whole purpose of why we do that is to help people that are looking to become entrepreneurs and business owners learn the things they need to do to be able to make that possibility, that they can be successful with that. And so I really appreciate everybody who listens to the show. I just want to let you know that. I appreciate your support, and thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good day now.